Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be talking about mistakes made by ball python owners.
Yeah, there's no doubt anyone who's been to a reptile show in the last 10 years knows that when it comes to pet snakes, ball pythons reign supreme. We're going to show you 5 mistakes that ball python owners often make. One of these mistakes could kill your ball python almost immediately.
The number one mistake we want to talk about is not doing your research before you buy your ball python. This is something that we've mentioned quite a few times on this YouTube channel because this applies to all reptiles and honestly all animals in general. Just because ball pythons are highly recommended for beginner reptile owners doesn't necessarily mean their care requirements are the easiest. Impulse buyers will oftentimes walk into reptile expos and pet stores and they'll see a ball python in its little cage that they think is cute as a baby, and then they take it home and they have no idea what they should feed it, how they should house it, or sometimes even how big it gets.
Now, speaking of improperly housing a ball python, recently at a reptile show, it was brought to our attention that there was a dealer there selling 10-gallon aquarium kits for use with ball pythons. A lot of customers that don't know any better probably bought those kits from the vendor and thought, all right, I'm set up. I've got my 10-gallon tank, I've got my heat pad, I've got whatever other stuff that was being pushed along, and they had no idea. But had they have done their due diligence and done their research beforehand, they would have known that buying a 10-gallon aquarium to house a ball python in is pretty much just wasting your money. A 10-gallon aquarium is not going to be sufficient for a ball python at pretty much any time in their life. Our recommendations here are 40-gallon minimal size for males and even larger for females that do actually grow larger than the males. So do your research, do your due diligence, and you'll save yourself some money, some wasted money, and you'll save yourself a lot of heartache in the long run.
The second mistake that we want to cover is keeping your ball python's cage too dry.
If you keep a ball python in an environment with a low relative humidity, it's simply going to be too dry for your ball python to be able to successfully shed its skin. That's just one of several health problems that can be associated with an environment that's too dry. Recently, we went to another one of these big box chain pet stores and we were checking out some pamphlets and seeing how they recommended ball pythons to be housed. One of the things that we were very concerned with is a pamphlet that they put out that said that you should use aspen shavings for ball pythons. Aspen is probably one of the last things I personally would recommend for any animal that needs a higher relative humidity. There are a lot of other substrates out there that are much better choices. One of those substrates is just simply cypress mulch. Now you can buy cypress mulch at Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, any of those. Just be sure you get the natural kind that doesn't have any artificial colors in it. The one thing that the cypress mulch has the advantage of over an aspen bedding is that you can spray it down and it will raise the humidity level without getting all moldy and stuff like the aspen bedding will once it gets wet. We highly recommend, regardless of what the big box stores tell you to do, stay away from aspen, stay away from pine, certainly stay away from cedar, and go with a better substrate that's going to allow you to raise the relative humidity. Now, another thing we want to recommend to you is that you actually check with a tool what your temperatures and humidity are. One of the tools that we recommend is this one right here. We have these available on our website. You can pick up one of these for under 20 bucks. This will tell you what the temperature is. It'll also tell you what the relative humidity is for your ball python. And you want a relative humidity of over 50%. Anything under about 50% and you're going to end up with shedding problems in your ball python. Now, one last thing I want to mention to you is if for some reason you choose to use a different type of bedding, but you still need a high humidity, one thing that you can use is a humidity shelter. Just basically a type of shelter. It can be commercially available. It can be made out of a Rubbermaid tub with a hole cut in the lid. You want some kind of substrate in this little container that is moist and it creates a higher relative humidity as that water evaporates. We've talked about that several times on our other videos, but we have some of those commercially available for baby snakes on our website as well. A humidity hide or a humidity shelter will allow your snake to have a microclimate that it can seek out inside of its enclosure when its body needs higher relative humidity, such as right before shedding.
Our third mistake that we're going to go over is actually a mistake that I learned the hard way when I first started working with my dad, is assuming that your ball python is going to eat the frozen thawed mice or rat. Just because it bites it and wraps it up doesn't mean that it's going to go ahead and swallow it. We find this problem specifically with our ball pythons because we have no problem with this with our king snakes, specifically our Florida king snakes. So don't forget to go back and check on your ball python a couple hours later.
Yes, that is absolutely right, isn't it, Annalie? A couple years ago, we were keeping a ball python collection for a friend of ours, and it consisted of about 35 or 40 ball pythons. My daughter went out to feed them one day. We had thawed out some frozen thawed rats, and she put a rat in all 30 some odd ball python cages. The snakes grabbed the rat off the tongue, wrapped them up, and she closed the cages back. Well, about a day later, I walked into the shop, and to say it smelled bad would be an understatement.
Hey, you left me unsupervised. Now this can go both ways.
As I began to inspect what the smell might be, I suddenly found about half of those ball pythons with rats still laying in their cage uneaten. She's right. This seems to be a problem only with ball pythons. They're the only snake I've ever seen that will literally grab a frozen thawed rodent off the tongs, wrap it up. In your mind, you think, yep, it's hungry, it's gonna eat. You close the cage, you come back later to a stinking, rotting corpse of a rat in the cage. So always come back and check several times behind your ball python to make sure it did eat.
Ball pythons are kings of catching and releasing. Mistake number 4 is making a ball python, or really any reptile for that matter, a fashion accessory.
Now, you would think that you wouldn't have to say something like this in a video, but it may shock you at the number of people that will get dressed to go to the mall and wrap their ball python around either their neck or around their arm like a bracelet. Now, this is a bad idea for several reasons. Number one, we've seen people out in the middle of the winter time wearing these animals, and you're just asking for health problems. But number two, because the vast majority of the public are still afraid of snakes, you wearing your ball python out into the shopping mall is only going to convince people that these animals should be banned and the private ownership of exotic pets should be no more. So think about the long term, think with some common sense. Don't wear your ball python out in the public like a fashion accessory. You certainly don't want to be linked to this guy.
How you feel? Trying to keep it real. Climbing up the hill. Trying to get a deal. Trying to get a meal.
Oh, dog, y'all got ball pythons? I need to get me one of these ball pythons so I can wear it to the park, you know, when I be shooting my ball and stuff, player. You know what I'm saying? You do recognize the difference between a python ball and a basketball, don't you? Can I try one of these on? Try it on? What you think this is, a gold chain? Let me try this on, player. Ooh, I can just see me now. Yo, player, I'll take a, can you back her up? Look here, boy, if you think having a ball python around your neck is gonna help you be able to slam dunk, and you more stupid than you look. Ain't you ever seen that movie with Wesley Snipes? You know we can't jump. What these things eat, man? I heard you can feed them gummy bears. Gummy bears? Boy, let me tell you something. You better put my snake down, turn around, walk away from this table. And if you call me player, I'm gonna pop you upside your nappy little head, and I ain't playing, dog. We told you that we have 5 points. We've already covered 4 of them, and I told you in the introduction, one of these points is going to be so serious that you can literally lose your ball python overnight from this mistake, and that is leaving live rodents in the cage with your ball python. Now, there are a lot of people that still feed their ball pythons live. We're not even going to get into the debate of whether that's good or not. My personal opinion is if you want to feed live, that is your business. But I will tell you this. There is a risk to doing so, especially when your ball python doesn't eat right off the bat. Now, we're not going to show you pictures and things like that in this video of what could happen, but let me assure you of this. If your ball python's not hungry and it doesn't eat that rat, and you leave a rat in the cage with your ball python, the prey can very easily become the predator. Many of ball pythons have literally had their heads chewed off, their skin chewed off of their body, and all kinds of things because an owner just left the rat in the cage assuming that the animal would eat whenever it gets hungry. What they didn't assume is that the hungry rat would eventually begin to gnaw on the snake. You can look these pictures up on Google if you think I'm kidding with you, but it can have devastating effects. If you're feeding your ball python live prey, you want to put the rat in, stay there with it, watch, make sure the python grabs it, wraps it up, make sure that the rat is not biting or chewing on the python during the constriction process. But once again, all of this can be eliminated simply by getting a ball python that is already used to feeding on frozen thawed rodents and keeping it on frozen thawed throughout the remainder of its life. Alright guys, with all that said, ball pythons do make incredibly good pets. These guys are extremely popular in the pet trade, and for good reason. They're moderate size. There is a host, a world without end of color and pattern morphs, and as you can see, they are relatively docile. Even children enjoy these pet snakes.
Hey, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, and we also have a new website, www.coldbloodcreations.online. We'll see you guys in our next video.
Bye-bye.
Mistakes made by ball python breeders.
Yeah, there's no...
Not breeders.
Is that that one?
So when it comes to keeping your boom.
Wow.